thought that I will go live and do a little book club today because I thought that this is a book worth sharing. So I want to introduce you to this book, How to Tell Stories to Children and everyone else too. I've read this book during COVID lockdowns. I spent lockdowns in Melbourne and we had quite a lot of them. So I bought a lot of books on Amazon and this was one of these books and I totally loved it. So the key idea here in this book is that oral storytelling is an important and unique teaching technique. So what is good about oral storytelling? Because it is something that is accessible. I'll quote Silke Rose and Joseph Sarosi, the authors. They say that storytelling is one of the oldest and most intimate skills on the planet. Modern stories are big businesses, often told through movies, books, and video games, but the oral tradition has something unique to offer. A lasting bond between storyteller and a listener. I think this is really great thing that captured my attention. So I looked at the review and I was looking for books on storytelling because I was thinking how to enhance my teaching skills as well. And I agree with the authors that it's a vital tool for educators and anyone who is interested in meaningful relationships with children, because there is a big difference between telling someone else's stories, although they might be awesome, and one of your own. So the key idea is that everyone can tell stories. I know you don't agree, probably. You would say, oh, I don't know how to tell stories to children. I don't know how to improvise. But this book will teach you intuitive storytelling because they prove that it's important to be able to tell stories to children that children are familiar with. The objects you are talking about. For example, my friend Tanya, hey Tanya, if you are watching, or even just listening or watching the recording, tells children about my dog Chester. And children expect the stories every week. And although Chester doesn't come to kinder, they all know Chester from pictures, from videos that she shares, and her own stories. So this is something that children may be familiar with. Another example would be that when I was working with children recently, we had an encounter with a bird, and then I was telling a story about this bird and my stories about birds encounters during COVID as well. I live in the backyard where there are trees and I see the bird right now, so I observe a lot of birds. And children, when they see something they can connect to, they are more likely to listen with suspense, with enthusiasm, and with attention. So this is the intuitive storytelling. Few things they mention that you need to do if you want to learn intuitive storytelling. Number one, of course, get confidence. So choose the right story that is suitable for this age group, for these conditions that reflects children's life. Also create a cozy and inviting storytelling environment, because Silke and Joseph work in Waldorf or Steiner Forest School. The environment is obviously outside, so they spend a lot of time in nature. But if they go inside, they follow Steiner Waldorf philosophy. When you use materials like this one, you dim the lights, you light the candle, or there is a campfire. So you can imagine that this way the storytelling is more intimate and beautiful. So I encourage you to try even this little thing. Even if you don't feel confident tell stories orally, you can use the book, but create environment like this one. So for example, put some piece of fabric over as a tent and sit down with children under the tree and try to read the story this way. You will see the huge difference, because of the circle and the intimacy of this storytelling way will definitely change their attention. The other thing they suggest is to pace your story and build a suspense. You know that's why I'm reading books and I'm telling stories on my channel, to show how it could be done. And look, I'm not perfect, but practice makes perfect. So for example, if you're telling a story about Goldilocks and three bears, you can say that she knocked at the door and then you don't know what happens, and then like, what happened next? Or if you're going on a bear hunt, we're going on a bear hunt, and then you can pause and build suspense. suspense. If you use these pauses correctly and pace the story and use your intonation, voice, your body language, they say, you will take your stories to the next level. So basically it is a craft, but everyone can learn about this craft. So that's the key idea. So a few suggestions to teachers as well, they say. Number one is to be authentic. So if you tell stories that are important for you, they're from your life, from these children's life, then it's easy to be yourself. So don't pretend to be someone else, right? So be natural. If you are a quiet speaker, use your quiet voice. If you are loud like me, then you obviously will be telling stories as yourself. Also have fun when you tell stories. So I think that's the most important thing. Pick stories that you love reading. And I keep saying this in all my videos, that I read books that I love. So if you don't like reading something, so let's say for me it's like Rainbow Fish, I don't really like this story. So you wouldn't be super excited. But if child is, I might kind of I feel enthused, but I'm much more enthusiastic about something that I like as well. The other thing is to think about it as a learning opportunity to teach skills and concepts. I wanted to say hello to my student Dipti. Now she's an educator. She asked me recently to create more stories with puppets that are targeting social skills and behavior problems. I wanted to tell you that you can create, based on this book, How to Tell Stories to Children, and so-called storytelling loop, stories about children's behavior that are these stories are tackling this behavior and invite children to solve these problems together. So for example, once upon a time there were two children who were 3 and 5 years old. They were always friends, but one day, let's say this boy, his name was Carter, woke up and he came to kinder and he played with his friend and he said, "I don't want to be your friend anymore." And this other boy was very upset. And what do you think happened next? So this is the beginning of the story about behavior and typical problem that they face. I don't want to be your friend anymore. So try it. So the other thing I wanted to say about this book is that they say that it's not about being a good storyteller or an expert, right? So it's more about being familiar with children and being this special person who is telling stories. I can recall my own experience when my grandma was telling me stories and I absolutely loved it. She was retelling me books by Alexander Dumas, by other writers that are famous, and I absolutely loved it because it was coming from her. I also can remember one of my relatives, when I was older, told me all 3 episodes of Back to the Future. You wouldn't believe it. It was rainy day and we were just at the holiday house and he told me the story and it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. When I watched the movie, I actually enjoyed it even less. I love the movies, but it's still really cool memories for me. So this book has some science behind storytelling, but they do talk more about how stories creating this sense of community, and they're really great. Fiction is good for us, that is promoting imagination, creativity, and connects us as well. But it also creates sense of hope. But what is very important about this book is stories to teach. Yes, so they have some examples there. And I think this is really important page, which is called Storytelling Loop. Here you go, I'm going to show it to you. So the storytelling loop has reality. So you find the event that is in your reality. For example, in my case, Chester is a dog now who lives with a cat and they don't get along together. The cat is nasty, he doesn't like him because he's a new family member here and he's very jealous. And there is a dog, Chester, who is very outgoing and in his face. So then you can use imagination. So let's say maybe the good fairy turned them into frogs. And then we create new reality and they got stuck in the pond and they needed to help each other. So this way they started to be friends again because they went through this adventure. So that's an example of using storytelling loop. So use this and try to create your first story. And I challenge you to look at this book, read it if you want, but I'll pretty much try to practice telling oral stories, which means that you're just gonna read them without any book at all. So you use old art of storytelling about something that happened to you in the past when you were a child, or that happened to you in children, right? So, and try to practice and start with one story and then tell me how did you go. So I encourage you to become really great storytellers, and this is the book that is combining modern science, step-by-step method, the storytelling loop, and also lots of examples. So good luck and thanks for watching. Bye.